Welcome back to 3-Point Firefighter, the podcast where I have conversations with firefighters all around the country on all things fire service related, especially those three things that I think are the foundation for any good firefighter: pride, training, and physical fitness. So today's guest is Michael Snodgrass. You've probably heard of Michael. He created the AggressiveFirefighter.com, FirexTalks, and the Worst Conference. I met Michael a couple of years ago in a class in Oregon, and he definitely made an impression on me. We had such a good talk, I decided to split this into 2 episodes. So part 2 will be coming out next Monday. So Michael's a firefighter in Oregon, and his department shares a station with Portland. So we talk about what's going on in Portland with the protests and how it's affecting the fire service out there. We spent a great deal of time talking about RIT, training, culture, and a few other things. Now, the first time I did this interview, there's a very slight chance that I didn't hit record, although I'm pretty sure it was a virus. But either way, Michael was very gracious and offered to do the entire interview again the following weekend. So big thanks to Michael on that one. And with that, please enjoy this podcast with Michael Snodgrass.
Again, how you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Thanks again for round 2.
Oh yeah. Too bad it's not the second chapter. Too bad it's chapter 1 over again.
Right.
It's technology, man. It's just never.
I definitely fucked it up somehow, some way. I don't know what I did, but I've been messing with it ever since. So we should be good to go. We're recording right now. So.
Well, and it's funny too, is that when it all comes out in the big scheme of things, like my video production guy, he's just like, when you can't reproduce it, it's just, that's the most frustrating.
Right.
It's because you don't know why it did what it did. So we had a couple of fire talks that when we went post editing, there was a hum that wasn't on any instrument when we were recording, and then the audio was basically ruined on 2 or 3 different fire talks, and
right.
And he used a bunch of software to clean them up as best he can, but the people that need perfect audio, those don't have perfect audio. So, right.
When it comes to podcasting, there's so many options too for audio and video, so you don't know exactly where to land. So I'm just using Zoom right now for both because I can tell it's recording correctly.
Yeah, and I like Zoom. I bought the little professional thing for Zoom because I was going to do a lot more Zoom to Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. So, because Zoom, when you pay the $14 or whatever, you can get it to run to Facebook Live without having to do any, and Instagram all at the same time. So you can record it and you can go live at the same time.
All right. Cool. You got a lot of stuff going on, so you probably do use that $14 Zoom pretty well.
Not as much as I should. I get self-conscious about, getting up and recording stuff because, I've started Sunday sermon series. I've started just, kind of reaching out, just talking little philosophical parts of the fire service. And it's just always interesting. I end up talking myself out of going live or going on Zoom and recording, and which is totally opposite my character because I'm more of a fire ready aim kind of guy, and it's just weird. I don't know. I've never had any negative feedback. It's not like somebody's like, you suck, it's just weird. It's like, all right. Am I putting out content that hasn't been heard before, or am I just, blabbing stuff that is already out there?
Well, that's a problem too with anything that we do. Somebody has put out, at least in some level, the same content that we're putting out. Right. It's just a different spin, maybe a different tactic here or there, but it's hard to find anything original anymore.
Well, and that's good, because if you do find something original, that means that at some point everyone was doing everything absolutely wrong.
Right.
And so it's like if we uncover something, we go like, oh, water actually doesn't put out fire.
We've been wrong this whole time.
Yeah, we've been wrong this whole time. It was some sort of mythical delusion.
Well, I appreciate you coming back for the second one, brother. I won't screw this one up, I hope, but I make no promises. I've been married twice, so making mistakes is kind of my thing.
I've been married once, and making mistakes is my whole thing. Fail fast, fail often.
There you go.
And get over it. So
that's the best. I don't set out to fail, but when I do try to make it to where I just make the same mistake once or twice. I try not to do it too often. I mean, that's best lessons you can learn, really.
Well, yeah. And then, I mean, one of the biggest things is, and I see this, my wife's a second grade teacher, and, so we're around kids a lot. And definitely I see a lot of that in the kind of now in the fire service, is that there are young people that we hire that have a lot of anxiety over any failure or perceived failure.
Right.
And it's just like, what? Just throw the ladder. Well, I need to know how to do it correctly. I said, it won't matter, because you're never going to have a training ground to throw a ladder on in the real world. I said, so just let's work on technique and let's move forward. Well, I have a hard time throwing the longer ladders. I was just like, well, good. Everyone has trouble throwing the longer ladders, and a 6'1" person is going to have different failures than a 5'6" person.
Absolutely. So different carries, different everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get those failures out there fast. And then we'll go, okay, well, this is what really works. And that, when we're talking about the RIT, 1,000 Maydays, that's the thing, is it's like, there's so many lessons to learn of watching people fail and experiencing failures yourself, but also, gosh, I heard a phrase the other day, not analyzed, but like failing for just failing is experience. What was it? Analyzed experience. Just having experience, failure or success, but not breaking it down and analyzing what the experience means, doesn't gain anything. You just now have a memory bank.
Right.
But if you don't break it down and reflect on it, then, and he was talking, it's John Maxwell. John Maxwell was talking about mentorship, and where if you can get a 40-year mentor that has 40 years of experience, but none of it has been reflected and analyzed. And so they're unable to help you, because their experience is only anecdotal for them.
Right.
And although they'll be able to tell the story, they won't be able to prevent you from making the same failures that they made, because they never reflected on it. And I thought that was a very, very interesting point of view to look at how we share information with someone.
Right.
About, hey, this is where people get screwed up on this drill or whatever, and then fail to say the next step, because the coupling is in the wrong place. The hose is, not charged prior to this point, or, whatever the situation is. That analytical set of it is the thing that oftentimes gets missed.
I know when I became the training officer for my department, one of the first things I noticed was when the people that came to the trainings and really was hating on training, I noticed a large amount of them were just afraid to fail. And then when they would fail in front of everybody, that's when I would get more negative feedback on training. And I've had a sense kind of, I guess one of the ways I can sort of help that is with more communication prior to the training, smaller groups. But eventually, your ego is going to get in the way, especially if you're somebody that's been on for a while or a higher rank. When a new guy screws up on a simple evolution, it's one thing, but when a captain screws up, it's a whole nother. So I've noticed
Correct.
that in my experience.
And that's true. And and that falls, even though they don't like to admit it, that falls right into the ego is the enemy.
Yes.
And that's and that almost seems like a judgmental term when you say, hey, your ego is your enemy on this, as an attack. I think judgment is good. We have far less judgment in the world than we need to. Attacking, somebody says, hey, your ego is getting in the way of your success, not as an attack. Because it's like, you will not realize how much you will gain in leadership credential with everyone out here if you step up and fail.
Right.
Because they'll go like, now, if you are completely incompetent at your job skill, now maybe that's a conversation where a captain comes to a training officer, says, hey, look, I've always been weak in this area. I'm never going to be great at it, but is there any way that I can not look like an absolute fool in front of my crew? Can I come down maybe tomorrow morning and, pull some hose and get it? And that's where you build that rapport with your training division or whatever to say, hey, absolutely. So there is a balance. If you have a leader that is revealed as incompetent in a foundational element of her job, that can erode a ton of support and respect. And at the same time is that what happened? How did that create? But sometimes it's the result you're handed to you.
Right.
I have a bunch of people that don't know how to do their job. I'm the training officer. We're going to have to punch through this.
One of the things I do every year is I do an SCBA confidence course. And I usually, although the elements are the same, I ramp it up and make it a little harder each time. And I try to make it as realistic as possible. Well, it's become one of the most dreaded things I do, to the point where my bosses will say, hey, listen, we're about to get a lot of phone calls for this. So if you can eliminate this part of it or add this part of it, we're just kind of tired of hearing about it. But because of that, there's two groups of people now. Well, actually three. The easiest group is the ones that just come, they try, fail or succeed. They put their effort in and they're done. I have some people that literally will brag that they will take that day off so they won't have to do it. Right. And then I've got the others, which is to your point, especially this one particular captain that every time I set this up, he doesn't necessarily struggle with it, but he feels he does. So he likes to come out a day or two ahead of time and get a heads up on it, because he really wants to succeed for a lot of reasons. One, just because he wants to. Two, he's a leader, he's a captain. So that time of year, now COVID wiped that one away this year, but it's coming up probably in the spring. But I'm one of those guys that believes that a couple of the core foundations of being a good firefighter, one of them is mastery of your SCBA in all types of atmospheres. Not just check it out in the morning and not just with no gloves, be able to hook up your UAC rig or take it off and push it through obstacles. I think that we should be experts in that stuff, more so than the people that sell them. That's kind of my goal is like for my guys to be able to tell somebody that sells MSAs like, oh, did you know this about this? Oh, and it does this as well. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And a lot of times I was just sitting there going, all right, there is actually a requirement, in our OSHA regulations. If you wear a respirator, you have to show competence in respirator use every year. So it's just like, we have to document that you're going to be in here. Right. So now you can't miss it. Even if you call in sick, you still have to come down, and then your crew hates you because you're like, dude, just show up for the drill. Because now we have to go out of service when we could be doing other stuff and go do this drill.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we get a lot of blowback that the first thing we do on the RIT class is the air consumption drill.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, why do you wipe us out before even the first drill? And I'm sitting there going like, why are you wiped out before the first drill? The very first drill lesson is your cardiovascular fitness and your familiarity with wearing a pack, because it's not just knowing your pack. You have to train your body on restricted airflow. People in that scuba dive as a, first run hobby, that's what they do. They know how to scuba dive. They know the restricted flow. You're not going to sit there and go like, oh, I got claustrophobic at 100 feet, so I pulled my mask. They would not be there saying that because they would be dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just like, tell me one scuba diver that has pulled their mask at 100 foot plus down because they felt claustrophobic and lived to tell about it, even on a training dive. And you're sitting there and go like, so I really can tell you, don't pull your mask, because you could die. I mean, those scuba divers, how much better should we be that we're getting paid to do this, to use almost the exact same technology?
Well, and I think a lot of times when it comes to stuff like that, let me back up real quick. First, so you started with aggressivefirefighter.com. You do FirexTalk. You do the Worst Conference. You do something that we're going to bring up near the end about culture. But what we're speaking of directly is your Randy Carpenter Memorial Fire School. You do several days of RIT drills, quite intensive RIT drills. And last time we talked about my favorite FirexTalk, which is the one that you do personally, 1,000 Maydays. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Randy Carpenter School? Tell me a little bit about where you fit in the department, and then we'll go into the school, and then we'll go through.
Okay. So, yeah. So I'm at City of Gresham Fire Department. I've been there for coming up on 27 years. I started at CAL FIRE, Riverside County in Southern California many, many moons ago. Gresham Fire Department shares a border with Portland. We actually share a station with the city of Portland. And the way that works is that we have our B shift is our employees on all City of Portland apparatus. So they have an engine and a rescue there. And so 6 firefighters from Gresham run the Portland fire station on B shift. And that's because it's right on the border between Gresham and Portland. Gresham is 6 stations, 6 1/3 stations. We have our urban search and rescue, technical rescue team. We have truck, engine, rescue chief at my station. We have water rescue out at the rivers. We're squared in by 2 navigable rivers, the Columbia, which is a very large river, and the Sandy River. We have 85 firefighters, and we also are the home of the regional hazmat team. And so they do one of 13 teams, I think, in Oregon. So they have a very large region that they cover from that. And currently, I'm at a station where we do 1 month on the truck and 1 month on the engine. And we switch back and forth. And the engine is the crew that runs the heavy rescue on. We have a train line that runs. We have a commercial train line, and then we have a light commuter train that both run through Gresham. And so the heavy and small airport. And so the heavy rescue is up on all of those incidents, as well as urban search and rescue incidents. And Gresham is very busy. We run a bunch of calls. The border between Portland and Gresham has 50% of all structure fires for the state happens on that border, and which is an astronomical number. So we're very busy, and I love my city fire department. We're great. We've had a lot of great changes over the recent history, and so yeah, I'm excited about what the next 3 to 5 or however many years I end up staying there is going to be.
Now, with Portland being in the news so much lately, how's that affected the fire service in that area?
So in Portland specifically, their police and fire are being affected a lot as far as call volume. And so for the last 100 and some odd days, the riots have been going on nightly. They stopped airing them because it was negatively impacting some election results that they want. And so they stopped airing them nationally. And but they still go on nightly. And so what they have done is created a area command of that of the riot areas, and so police they're just getting decimated by overtime and having to navigate all of that infrastructure. But on the fire side, it's run by area command. So just because there's a structure fire or a mattress burning or a car fire, it doesn't mean you're going to be dispatched normally and just go put it out. It'll be under area command. So you'll go to a staging area outside of the the sanctioned off area. It'll get cleared by police and however that needs to happen, and then you'll respond into that area. So a very, very different structure for Portland, and that's primarily Portland. At Gresham, we've had several incidences related to the civil unrest riots. But now every Wednesday in Gresham, we have at our city hall where I work, we have 100 to 300 Back the Blue supporters that put on a weekly rally. And so for us, we go out in calls and we get cheered by 100 to 200, 300 flag waving people. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of a unique thing, but it's we have a lot of fire activity going on the smaller scale. We have a lot of dumpster fires, a lot of mattress fires, a lot of couch fires. The area between Portland and Gresham, that border is economically depressed. So there's always furniture to find on the street. There's always things to burn. And so we have a lot more activity related to that in there.
Yeah, last time you were telling me you were actually making camping tent fires.
Yeah, so that's something that I never thought would be part of the DNA of our department. But I would say I was kind of keeping track. I worked a 4-day shift, so 96 hours here. And I would say at least daily, multiple tent fires a day. And so if you're not familiar with the area, due to political reasons or whatever you think, we now have from Gresham, from in Multnomah County specifically, from where I work through Portland and kind of spreading out from there, we have open season of camping. So camping is every space that is not controlled by some private entity is open for camping. And so we have tents in all of those urban open spaces, and we have what we call ghost RVs or ghost boats. And since we have we have boats that are just floating out there where people are living on them, and we have RVs and trailers and everything that just litter the roads in the uncontrolled area. So if you come down to City Hall, you're not going to see an RV stranded in the middle of the parking lot. But if you go out to the trails or to the uncovered area, you're going to see tents and you're going to see derelict RVs that people are living in. And so that creates an intense fire load where we're going on tent fires and more recreational vehicle fires than we've ever seen before.
I was there a year or so ago, and I remember going first time going down through Portland. I actually saw tents on the side of the street, like on the sidewalk, and then of course the parks and stuff were just littered with that kind of stuff. That's got to be difficult to live in a place and see that kind of economic depression, and maybe a place you love, because there was a lot of garbage too. I noticed quite a few people digging through garbage to get cans or whatever, and then they just left the garbage on the street.
Yeah. And then there's definitely two sides of the argument, and I'm not saying on either side of the argument. It's a very expensive to own a house in Multnomah County, and I can see where people would struggle, and I'm sure there's a whole set of reasons why people have to are homeless. And I don't know all those reasons. I've not experienced it myself, but there's also this other element of mental health issues, drug addiction issues, anti-society issues, people that just don't want to live in the societal norms. And they've taken advantage of rules and regulations that allow them, because of lack of proper city ordinances and stuff like that, to camp on the street legally. And after that's a problem, it's hard to go back and evict people and change your city charter and do all that other kind of stuff. And so it's just a struggle for everyone. And I don't see it getting any better post in COVID recovery, because I don't even think we've started the recovery process yet. I know personally, I have several friends that have lost businesses already, and as their primary source of income. And so now you have all these people that are moving back into being employees that are well qualified. How is that going to affect the overall employment situation? Are there going to be more homeless people than ever before? And I just don't know that answer.
Let's switch gears here a little bit. And we were sort of talking about it earlier, too, about the Randy Carpenter Memorial Fire School, which I think is really interesting. Tell me about that and all the RIT training that goes into that.
Right. So first thing, I'd like to just give credit where credit is due. The RIT class that Fire Department Training Network in Indianapolis does is where even my curiosity got piqued about the quality of firefighter survival and RIT training that could possibly be out there. So I just happened that I was available for a time when they were offering that class. I took the class, took the train the trainer portion, came back and trained our department in those skills to the level that they would allow me. And then from there, the word kind of got out of, hey, can you come to our department? Can you come to our department? Can you come to our department? Hey, can you do this? And, because of certain structural issues and trying to make it very specific kind of for the Pacific Northwest or the West Coast fire tactics and strategies, we just needed to basically make a road show where I could go from department to department to do that. And then that began the Randy Carpenter Memorial Firefighter Survival Search and Rescue School. And Randy Carpenter died in a fire in Coos Bay, which is Southern Oregon. And I had become friends with that family that supported training. And so I worked with them, and they started supporting the training so we could go around and travel around and do the training portion of it. So that's where the Randy Carpenter name came from. And died in an auto parts store fire that had heavy timber, which then had an explosive result of collapse and killed him and 2 volunteer firefighters. And my son now works at the department where Randy started. So a very hometown connection there. And
that's,
so
is that Andrew?
Andrew, yeah. Baker, okay. He works at Baker City where Randy Carpenter started his fire career. And so the school focuses on 3 days. 3 days. The first day is firefighter survival. So rescuing yourself is what we call it. The second day is firefighter rescue, rescuing your crew member as part of a crew after initiating your rapid intervention team. Primarily the people that are going to help you the most are the people that are right there, or the crew that's next to you. And then the last day we focus on the rapid intervention team, developing a system of rapid intervention that actually works very well in the real world, and is what we've developed, is developing realistic scenarios and then figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And what we found on the rapid intervention side is that the biggest problem is people don't train on it. And so even in their SOP or SOGs or their how they run their department, they may have a line or a whole procedure of how they do it. But when you actually bring them out to do it, the structure necessary in that type of event is not present. And so we really focus heavily on, if you build a rapid intervention system and then put it into the chaos of at least as realistic as possible scenario, the system will save you. Individual skills and lack of a system will reliance on just individual skills, and the lack of a system will kill you, and it will kill the person you're trying to save. And we've just seen that over and over and over again. And so we say we have one system, and we've seen it work thousands of times. And again, I'll give credit to Fire Department Training Network to that kind of, I think, anchored that. And then they were on fire engineering training minutes for that message, which you have to go back into the archives to see it. And then just to run through hundreds, if not thousands of scenarios where we focus on that rapid intervention. And the same goes with the survival skills. Same goes with the crew rescue skills. And so that's it. We've been doing it now for 5 years. We've had hundreds of people go through the class, and we've seen thousands of self-rescues, thousands of crew rescues, and we've seen thousands of rapid intervention responses in surreal and very realistic training environments that people struggle with to get a rescue.
You've got a lot of data from that school, which I found real interesting. And some of it was just scary. Like, for example, 1% of air supply established within 4 minutes, 5% firefighter located within 4 minutes, 10% firefighter removal within 10 minutes, and no obstructions. And it kind of goes on from there.
Right.
That had to be pretty sobering for you when you see all this. I mean, your goal is to teach them how to do this. And in doing that, you came up with these numbers. Did that change how you taught the class after that?
100%. So one of the things is, and I know there are different skill bases everywhere, but one of the things that we initially took for granted was firefighters' individual skill set. And we came out, we're like, all right, we believe that every firefighter is at this skill level. And what we found is that's not true, is that for the majority of firefighters, their skills, regardless of where they were at one point, complacency and lack of use has eroded those skills. And so since it's a very intense class and it's a very fast class, so the first day we go 12 hours, the next day we go 10 hours, and then the final day everybody's so whipped that if we get a strong 8 hours, we'll be good to go. But that's one of the things. So the first thing we did is we changed where if we're going to want to see a skill done a certain way, regardless of the age and experience of the firefighter, we just make sure that we cover it beforehand. So ladder throwing skills, SCBA competency, ropes and knots, doing things with, the simple skill of doing activities with your fire gloves on. I would say is one of the skills that is probably eroded the most through complacency in training. Is we don't train with our fire gloves on. And when you're requiring people to wear their fire gloves, that it just is a skill. It takes skill to do things with your fire gloves on. So we taught that a lot. But the other thing is that we've really tried to, and we were talking about this, just you and I were talking about this earlier, is allow room for failure as feedback, and then to analyze that feedback so that we get better because of it.
Right.
To just, it is entertaining, but it's also, to watch in a safe training environment, it's comical to see how badly things go. But in that, if you just leave it as that, and you don't go and try to hammer down on what was the failure point, and if it's a chain of failures, where could we have broken the chain and moved it to success, moved it closer towards success? And the Mayday project, and I can't remember the guy's name. I was going to look it up and I forgot. The Mayday project is another huge benefit, not me. Somebody analyzed actual Maydays.
Mm-hmm. Seen that.
So if you look, so if you look up the Mayday project, that's another huge benefit. The post Southwest supermarket fire, the analysis of how many people it took to do a rapid intervention, and cascading failures that happen when rapid intervention is in play on a fire ground. And being able to break those systematic problems. And then sometimes people ask, because there's a philosophy out there, people ask, are you for rapid intervention teams, or do you lean more toward standby crews that are ready for, moving forward in whatever the command needs at the time? And after seeing everything that goes on, if you have the manpower in your region, a trained specialty rapid intervention team would be the Cadillac of responses.
Right.
To have a group of people that may never be activated to save a firefighter's life, but are always prepared. And whatever that looks like. Secondary to that is having a regular crew on the fire ground, set aside, who's only focused. They're not worried about moving forward. They're not doing any of that. Their whole focus is firefighter safety and survival. They are given ownership of everyone on the fire ground, and take that responsibility not as yard breathers given the sucky assignment of rapid intervention, but know where the access egresses are. Do you have ladders to the second floor? What is the truck company doing? Where are people getting overextended? How long have people been in the building breathing on a bottle? When's the bottle change is going to come out? Where are people going to exit the structure if they do get in trouble? How are we going to ingress the structure if they do get in trouble? What does command know? Is there a 360 done? How does that 360 look? Do we have all of the levels accounted for of the building? And when I see it, and I see at let's say my department or any department out there or any YouTube that you watch, and you see the RIT as statues in the yard, it definitely piques my curiosity, because the weight of regret of losing a firefighter that's in your charge is way heavier than the requirement for preparation to get ready for the potential of what's going on. So I always tell people, man, take that assignment seriously. The regret would kill you.
That's the problem that I've seen a lot in my experience. As people get bored doing RIT, they see it as to use your term, which I love, yard breathers. They stand outside and then talk about dinner or whatever. My argument's always, there's so much you can do as a functioning RIT team on the outside that's not only crucial to fighting that fire, but also kind of fun to do. Doing your 360s, being an extra set of eyes for the commander, and throwing ladders. I'll never understand why there's a ladder left on a truck in there's a two-story building with plenty of windows. I always tell them, throw ladders every single window. There's a ton you can do. Another thing to touch on what you're saying, though, if you haven't experienced a line of duty death in some form or fashion, it's hard for you to make that leap and go, wow, it's so much harder to live with something like that as opposed to just training and learning your job better.
Right. The weight of regret is suffocating. And, we're doing a project now on firefighter stress or first responder stress and suicide. And, one of the things that we are finding as we're discussing people is that not only do people have regret for, when they suffer a catastrophic line of duty death or something like that, but we're finding a lot of first responders are just regretting their life. And they truly believe that the world would be better without them. And it's just like, wow. I mean, because we have people that have stress and these extreme issues in very slow systems, very slow systems, but some catastrophic set of events, mentally, physiologically, whatever, has just created a crushing level of regret on these people and on us first responders. And it's weird to see how that manifests, but I just think of it back to a few times where we've taught classes where we've actually had people with line of duty death experience. And, they, they appreciate the seriousness that we give to firefighter survival, firefighter rescue, and firefighter rapid intervention. And because the class is extremely intense. We travel anywhere. For 25 people, it's $6,000 for us to come out and teach the class anywhere in the United States. And we have support and other people, and the majority of the instructors waive their fee to get paid. They volunteer their time. And so we go around, and so anybody that wants the class, we can do 25 students, $6,000 to get us to come out. And, we have a couple people, fingers crossed, hoping to book in 21 to see if we can get this done. But we'll see. We're going to go to the LIFT conference in Louisiana in the spring. So we'll be doing our one day version of just firefighter survival and stress inoculation related to that. So that'll be good. And so hopefully maybe Alaska. I think Fairbanks is looking to host a class. So we're excited about it. The instructors get very excited. They get very tired afterwards, but it's a great class. And then we have great instructors for that class. It's so funny is because when I can't find the instructors, when you're like, where'd the instructors go? It's 100% of the time when I can't find the instructors, they're training.
They're doing the scenarios.
Well, yeah, because they saw somebody do something that they hadn't seen before. And so they're in there going like, hey, man, this is what happened. This guy did this, bump, 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 and he pivoted this way. And so they're working on it. I'm like, hey, we're late for our break because you knuckleheads are out here training, It's just like, let's get back and get after it. And so, but they're just an awesome group of people, just love the fire service and want to train and want to really make firefighters the best that we can be. And like they say, this is the best training is the best training, and teaching or instructing is the best training.
One of the things that really hit home with me is you said in that talk that you're seeing firefighters taking this training, having real emotional responses to sandbag dummies. And I thought that was really amazing. That's somebody that's getting emotionally invested in the training. They're taking it serious.
Right. And firefighters do not like to fail or have a perception of failure. And when put into the scenarios that we develop for these individuals, it's multiple days. So fatigue and camaraderie are two elements that we have found that really build emotion into training. Is that because if you perceive that you're personally failing, your crew, the camaraderie of that drives you to have emotional investment in the success or failure of the crew. Okay. In addition, fatigue also makes us more emotional. And on the day that you are, and we incite emotion also, because during the process, we've said, we've told them, are you allowing your complacency and lack of training to kill this firefighter? Because you have them in your hands. Because not everyone, it's not a judgment and attack. Some firefighters in training quit, but they don't want to quit. Deep down in their soul, they don't want to quit. But maybe they just haven't been challenged by someone to push them to success. And so we encourage, is like, you're going to quit right now? I mean, you're going to kill this firefighter right now because you're tired? We drive the emotion also. Mm-hmm. And not to a point where they're making, we're not talking about rules of air management. We're not talking about doing physically dangerous things. We're talking about people that may have never been pushed in their entire life, that if they quit, they kill.
Right.
And there's no one else coming. You're the person. If you can't lift this person, if you can't move this person, if you can't call, communicate, do whatever it is, if you just rip your mask off and lay down beside this person, you both die. The door is 5 feet behind you. And they reach down, they gut it out. And on the outside of it, they have that positive emotional response. We're like, I didn't think I had anything left. If you weren't grinding on me, if you weren't, if I didn't have the camaraderie, if I didn't have the support, because they know we love them. And then, I think it takes like the first, we come in there, and here's a bunch of outsiders coming into our department to try to teach us something. And you always have to prove. And I said, you know what? For our instructors, I said, we can't prove how good we are. Let's just prove how much we care.
I like that.
And, and so they see our attention to detail. They see our brotherhood, before COVID or whatever. We're like, shake hands and brotherly hugs, man. And I was just like, let's build the bonds of brotherhood right from the get-go. We are here because we care about you. And then a lot of the guys, especially on the career side, was like, everyone here has waived their fee to be here so that we can build better props or do this or do that. So no one's getting paid that's going to be here teaching you. And that takes a lot of guys like, why in the hell would you do this? And, but we drive that care level up just through the roof. We want you to succeed. We care about you. And then after the first set of drills, the first firefighter survival skill drills and the air consumption drill, which we start off with, for the most part, we've won everyone over to like, I don't care what these guys know what they're doing, but these guys really care. I mean, we're emotionally invested first. And then so when it comes to that point where you're fatigued, your hands are giving up on you, you got that sandbag dummy, you're 30 foot from the door, your command or your company officer, everyone is switched out. You're all at the we have to leave moment. There's another rapid intervention team coming. We've communicated. We're done all of that we need to do to be successful, but we have got to go right now. To let that sandbag brother go and leave is it gets people in the feels. I mean, they're like, this is I don't want to leave this guy. I don't want to leave this, this guy behind. And that just shows, I think a lot of it shows the realism that we put people through, and the fatigue and everything else. And it takes, I mean, can you imagine, and we focus a lot on who's a company officer. All right. When you have to make the decision yourself, it's awesome. But when you're the company officer and say, we have to leave right now. Okay. We can't get out in, we can't follow the rules of air management right at this moment, or we can't get out before we run out of air if we don't leave right now. Number one, you have a company officer that's so situationally aware that he knows of his air supply consumption of his crew or suspects it. Mm-hmm. Two, you got a company officer that is making life and death decisions related to not only Sandy the sandbag, but also his crew, and three, standing up and doing what is right. He communicated, he has the rapid intervention line in place. The Sandy, the dummy, has a stable air supply, all of those things. He's done everything. It's just like, we have got to go right now. And I've seen company officers, having to fight their crew to get them out, very similar to what I think it would be like at a real event. We can all get out and another crew can take over and we all live, or we can all die.